Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs with professionals that can help you go all in on your business. We talk to people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all the things that we experience in the small business world, and come out the other side more knowledgeable, with more skills, more experience that they're willing to share with us so that we can run a more successful business. Thank you very much for coming. I wanted to say that first of all. It means a lot to us for you to share your time with me, share your time with the audience, teach us something from, based on your experiences. Again, I appreciate your time very, very much, and it means a lot to us. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Great. My name is James Brock. I'm the owner of Boston Home Inspection. We're located in Boston, Massachusetts. I started the business close to about 30 years ago. I was in construction before and would renovate houses, build decks, do kitchens, bathrooms for people. I used to buy property, fix it up and sell it or rent it out. Um, and then in 96, BU hired me to go down and GC a 50,000 square foot gut rehab building for them in
Wow.
Washington, DC. So when I came back, I found it was easier to tell somebody, hey, that toilet's broken than to be the guy that goes and fixes the toilet. So I started Boston Home Inspectors and was still doing construction. And then as I slowly built the business up, I've switched now where I'm the home inspection full time. So
And you said that the home inspections. When did you start that? Like, what was the year that you said you got into that after the big remodel?
that was 96 is when I officially started Boston Home Inspectors. Prior to that, people would call me and just say, "Hey Jim, could you come out and inspect?" So I was more like under the construction company, and I would just show up with a yellow pad of paper, walk around the house, and make notes. And at the time when I started the business, there wasn't licensing in Massachusetts for home inspectors. So home inspectors, there were all different standards that they would use. Some would inspect windows, some wouldn't inspect windows. So I went through and created forms for like official forms for the business to use. And then I think it was 2007, the state then you had to be licensed. The state came up with home inspection license. And those that were in business or could prove that they were in business for 3 years prior were grandfathered in for their license. But we still have to do the continuing education classes every year. So it was, now the state has standards where minimum standards for the home inspectors to follow. You can go above and beyond the standards if you'd like, but they created a base standard.
Sure. And so, what is that like now? Like trying to transforming into that small business role. Like how did you kind of get your business started? I know you probably had relationships with real estate agents, relationships with people locally. Like, what was that thing that helped you get your business off the ground?
Um, it, it took a while. I mean, my first year, I think I had 13 official home inspections because it just wasn't an industry. But it was consistency and quality, I think. Like the uniform, I wear the same uniform every day, been wearing the same kind of, uniform. Having forms that are easy to read, relationships with the realtors, lawyers, and bankers. In marketing, marketing is a huge, huge thing. It's getting your name out there to people to let them know. And you'll have realtors have their own favorite home inspectors that they've been using for years, they're very comfortable with. They don't want a new guy coming in and might wreck the deal that they're unfamiliar with. So it's trying to get them to, open the door and let you in, and so you can show how you perform the inspections and how you talk to the client. Um, Not being an alarmist. You want to work with the agent and work with the buyer and to explain what's going on to the house without scaring them where they're going to walk away, if they're or push them off the edge. So, for example, if I always show up a half hour early so I can do my homework, start my notes. I look at the property the night before online so I can at least become familiar with it. Then when the buyer shows up, at least all my outside notes are done. So for example, if I find termites near the garage and the buyer shows up, I don't take them right over to the, say, oh my God, look at you have termites. What I'll do is I'll start, yeah, I'll explain the role of the inspector, what we do. No house is perfect. Um, I set the expectations and the standards of what we're gonna do. My job isn't to tell you how wonderful this is and how nice that is. My job's to say, fix this, repair that. So after a while, I tell them, I don't want you to think, oh my God, this guy isn't saying anything nice about my house. So then I take them and I'll start going the other way around the property. So I won't go to the garage first. I'll start working around the property, talking about the siding, talking about the foundation, explaining how the parts and components work. And then as I'm walking around, I say, now, in the course of a week in New England, if I happen to see termite damage, if at my third workday, if I haven't found termite damage or seen something, I'm wondering if I'm not paying attention. So I kind of start explaining a little bit. So when we come back around to the garage side, I've done my little speech about termites, what they are. Now we have it. It's not the first thing out of the box is to scare them. So um, and give them good information. We're in Massachusetts as home inspectors, we're not allowed to work on property that we've inspected, which is good because it keeps us neutral. We're not
Sure.
allowed to tell them what to negotiate or not to negotiate because we don't know what was agreed to. The house might be sold as is. The seller may have already taken off, 20 grand for them that we're unaware of. So they don't want us coming in saying, oh, well, you should, or this person should. But getting into business, it took a while to, slowly get your name out there and have agents, oh, you should try him. He's good. He's not an alarmist, or he's very knowledgeable. And the other thing is you have to know everything about the heating systems. Like I take continuing education classes every month, sometimes even twice a month on a subject. So it's new electrical things, new heating systems, new roofing styles. And that is very important because during an inspection, you may have a father that's there who's a master electrician. And all of a sudden, the father starts asking you questions. Well, what's the difference between 240 and 208? And you've got to be able to answer that. You can't stumble or you can't try to lie your way through it because they'll catch you. They'll know. So, or if you don't know something, your answer is, hey, you just say, look, I don't know. Tonight when I get back to the office, I'll look up on the internet. I'll find the answer for you. Because there are some things you just don't know. But
Sure.
but marketing has been key. I do a lot of advertising, um, and for name recognition.
Sure. No, it makes a lot of sense. And your industry, like it seems like people that are very successful in the home inspection space have this superpower of being able to um shed light on what exactly is going on when you're home without with while escaping that perception of being the person that kills the deal, right? Like you have to be thorough enough that people can't come back to you and say, oh, I didn't know about this, my home inspector didn't tell me about that, maybe they didn't pay attention. But you also can't be the person that um describes the house in a way that is negative so that you turn off the buyer from that property because it really hinders your ability to get business from the real estate agents, right? So talking about that, what has it been like for you throughout these 8 years of trying to balance that responsibility to the homeowner to share information with them and that responsibility to the realtor to still emphasize the fact that even a house that has 90% of the things done well and correctly is a house in good shape or whatever that percentage may be.
I think a lot of it is how you explain something and how you write it down. It has an impact. For example, is the window screen missing or is the window screen not installed? So just how you write a sentence to describe something, both are saying the same thing, but one has a negative aspect to it. So you try to write things to describe what is going on, in a way that's not harsh, if you want to say, but you're explaining it. The over the years, the industry has changed because when we went back, 25 years ago, you think of it, the iPads and the computers really didn't exist. Everything was the NCR. You were doing triple carbon paper and you're handwriting things down. Now with the technology, we can submit the report to the client at the time of the inspection along with photos. So when they leave the property, they have the report and they have the photos in hand. And not a lot of home inspectors do that. They'll take 24 hours. And in the fast pace that we're in, the attorney wants the paperwork, or the realtor wants the paperwork immediately. Home inspection is done. What do we need to negotiate to get to this P&S? The signing of the P&S is the goal for them. We've got to get there. There are a couple steps in between. And if the home inspector delays it by a day or two, the report, or from on site, and then they get the report, and what the inspector said on site and what the report says is completely different. And I've seen that happen, or realtors say that. They'll say, oh, the inspector said this when we walked around, we got the report, and the report was really negative. The report had stuff in it that the inspector never even told us during the inspection. So it's that going back to consistency and being, they know, if there's a deck that needs repaired, needs to be replaced. It's, hey, you're going to live here. The deck's old. It's 20 years old. It's a way you explain that, not, oh my God, if you have a child, he steps on this deck, it's going to kill him. You don't say
Right.
things. You just start saying, look at it. The deck is old. Live here a year. Then you guys decide what you want to do. Maybe you want to change the shape of it. Maybe you want to move the stairs. Maybe you might want to put two levels. But, in the back of your mind, you need to plan, you need to budget for the replacement of a deck. So again, it's just how you kind of explain it to the buyer. And first-time home buyers, a lot of times they're nervous. Um, and, it's a lot of money here in New England. Even down payments, a couple $100,000. I mean, it's a lot of money. It's the
Right.
largest investment these people are going to be making. And our job, besides just looking for issues or problems, our job is to educate them about the house. This is the type of roofing material you have. These are the pros and cons to this type of roofing material. This is the type of siding you have. Here's what maintenance needs to be done, or it doesn't need maintenance. What type of decks, porches, um, garage openers, things like that. Then the heating systems. A lot of times they're coming from a property that might have a boiler. Now they're going to forced hot air. Well, in the forced hot air system, now you have to replace an air filter. Now there's different maintenance or how the system works. Radiant heat is becoming larger in this area. So that's the tubing in the floor. So if you're going away for the day or the weekend with a normal heat, like a boiler, you turn it down to 60, you come home, you turn it on, back to 72. With a radiant heat system, you don't want to do that because it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time to heat that mass up. But once that mass is heated, it's very little energy to maintain the heat in it. So it's not just, our job isn't just looking and saying, hey, that window's broken. It's to say, look at this is how this system is going to work. This is how you're going to have to maintain it, and this is how you're going to have to handle it. And as you come along, and if you find something that's a little deterioration on the windowsill, okay, you have some deterioration on the windowsill. Easy for a painter to come out, cut, repair, putty. You don't go, oh my God, your windowsill is rotten. You don't say something like that, but you've notified them and educated them and told them what's going on, but it's how you do it. But the
Right.
technology has really been a game changer.
Sure. And how talk to me a little bit about the obstacles and kind of the change in barrier of entry to your industry, right? So I would imagine that with the need to be licensed and the need to do continuing education has raised a slightly higher barrier to your industry than what was there previously before they before the government had decided that there needed to be some type of licensing for your position. Is it harder to get into your industry today, or are people that get into your industry, do they tend to stay longer because they're more qualified? What has kind of that change been in the perception of your industry as a whole for people that are just starting out in the home inspection space?
It is very difficult to get into the home inspection in the New England, in the Boston, and Massachusetts, I should say. Let me start that sentence over again.
Sure.
So it is very difficult in Massachusetts to become a home inspector. The easy parts are you have to pass a national exam. You have to take 75 hours of continuing education. That's the easy part. The hardest part is you have to have somebody supervise you for the first and train you for the first 125 home inspections. So when these home inspection schools come out and they do advertising to these guys, oh, it's easy to become a home inspector. You come to our school, give us $5,000. And then all you have to do, once you get those two certificates, is just go find work for an inspector. And he'll train you. Well, what's the incentive for me to train somebody and teach them all of my tricks who's going to go out and then undercut me?
Right.
And I'm going to introduce this person to the people that are hiring me. So we receive these phone calls all the time as soon as school lets out, and these guys are like, "Well, we're looking for a trainer," and it's like, "Well, we don't train people. I don't." Massachusetts, there's about 450 licensed home inspectors, but not all of them are full-time home inspectors. So that's the obstacle that somebody new in this business. And I always tell people, find your trainer first. Go to like an ASHI, American Society of Home Inspectors class. We have them every month. You, as a guest, you can just show up. You pay your $50, whatever it is. There's a class. There's somebody who's going to speak for 2 hours on a particular subject. We have round tables. There's going to be about 100 home inspectors there. And ask, hey, I need training. So could somebody help? Could I go? And there are people that do that training. And I explained to them, okay, so once you're trained, and now you have your 150 home inspections, the supervisor signed off. Now you have to pay this person who's training you. So that's usually $100 a home inspection. So that's another $11,000 that you gotta pay to that supervisor. Just like going to class. If you're gonna go to school, you're gonna pay the school. An attorney, you got to go to law school. You pay to get your license. Same thing. You're paying that supervisor to teach you, then to get you that, so you can get your license. If somebody has a full-time job and they're trying to do it on a weekend, if you're on a Saturday or Sunday, if a home inspector is doing 2 a day, let's say he does 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, so the first week you've got 4 now. So now you get a week, the next week you'll have 8. And I mean, think of how long it's going to take you to get up to 150 home inspections. So now I explained to them, all right, you have your license. Now you got to start a business. You got to come up with a business name. Now, how do you get your name out there to the realtors? How do you get your name out there to buyers, to banks, to the attorneys who review your report? Because the attorneys review home inspection reports for the P&S. So a lot of attorneys will look at one company's report, which is very difficult to read, or another one that's easy to read. When their client says, who should I use? They're going to say, hey, use this guy. His report's thorough. It's easy to read. So attorneys are important as well for getting referrals. It's not just the real estate agent. So in this market where you have a lot of people being outbid, you'll have 14, 15 offers on properties. So the realtor is taking, the clients around. They're taking them from house to house. They're putting a bid in here. They're losing the bid. They get to the next property. They lose a bid. That agent is spending a lot of time with the buyer and isn't getting paid yet. Doesn't get paid until it closes. So now, all of a sudden, out of 14 offers, they finally got an offer. They looked at 6 other properties. They couldn't get it together. They finally have an offer now in signed. The next step is the home inspector. Is that realtor going to go to the new guy who's an unknown, or is that realtor going to use the guy that they've been using for the past 5 years? That they know how they're going to come in. They know how they're going to go around the property. They know how they're going to explain things. Which one is the realtor going to use? Because the realtor isn't going to take the risk on having a new guy come in and blow the deal.
Right.
So now I said, so that's the hurdle you have to find. So now you've got to find somebody. And meanwhile, you have to carry insurance. So you're going to carry your liability insurance, your errors and omissions insurance. You got to pay for your continuing education classes. You got to pay to have your business registered with the state. There's X amount that's going to go out every year. So you got to start bringing that money in. Um, so that's difficult for buyers. We went through a phase where people were waiving home inspections. So we've seen a dip. A lot of the guys, got out of the business. I know a couple of guys who closed up because they weren't getting the work, and, they took on other careers. So, so that's the hurdle when guys call me and, before they take a class or after they take a class, I said, that's the hurdle that you have to do. How do you get your name out there to these realtors? And, that's a tough, you know,
Sure.
very difficult.
It's a bigger barrier than normal. Well, I appreciate your perspective on your industry, right? Because from the outside looking in, right, as someone that's interested in the home buying process and protecting that biggest investment that you make in your life, the home inspector is really on your team, right? From a consumer's perspective, is to educate you about exactly what it is that you're purchasing in a way that makes you feel comfortable with what you're buying. Not that makes you feel uncomfortable because they point out all of these flaws, but it's really just to educate you on exactly what investment that you're making. And realistically, from a payments perspective, I look at your industry and I say, okay, this is an industry where you have to be very busy. You have to do um, you have to do a lot of work. You have to do a lot of marketing. You have to create a lot of relationships in order to be successful in your industry. But it seems like once you get to that point, if you can overcome that barrier to entry, you can narrow down your systems and processes. You can build your network in a way that is going to give you the business that you need to be successful. What is so interesting about your industry is that it's a lot of the same, right? It's finding ways to be consistent and deliver a product that people are comfortable with over and over again, while continuing to put your name out there and plant seeds in places that can bring you new business. So, if you're interested in the home inspection space, I encourage you to do your research about what it takes in your state specifically to become licensed and certified, guidelines on continuing education, guidelines on insurance, and what the network of people in the real estate sphere look like around you, because it is super important to know what the landscape is around you before you decide that this is the industry for you. So I appreciate your perspective again. Tell me this, if there's someone in the Massachusetts area that wants to use you for a home inspection, or there's someone that wants to ask you questions, or maybe they're in an adjacent industry to you and they feel they could partner with you in order to do business together, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, Boston Home Inspectors, we have a website. The Instagram, we have an Instagram. We have over 20,000 followers on our
Oh,
Instagram.
wow.
We post one funny, crazy picture a day of stuff we find during home inspections. And the response is great. The comments are funny. I'll look at a picture and I'll spend a week thinking of a funny comment. I'll finally post it. The next day, I'll go on and there's 10 comments that are funnier than mine. I'm like, oh, I should have wrote that. Oh, I should have wrote that. But every day during the home inspection, I ask the client to follow me on Instagram. And so my membership or followers just slowly goes up. I get two a day, three a day, but it's every day that I'm out working. I get two buyers in front of me, and I'm asking them, or if their parents are with them. So I slowly built up that 20,000. Um, uh, so what else was I going to say? There was something else I was going to say about the business. Oh, what's really important in our business, um, your competition is also a good asset. Like there's another home inspector who will sometimes pass work back and forth. Or if I'm busy, I'll say, call, Lenny over, sure, give him a call. Or, he'll say, call Jim. And a lot of the realtors will say, okay, if Jim's busy, use Lenny. So we're in our business styles are very similar. So we always talk back and forth. So even though he's competition, he's still, a fellow business owner that we could say, hey, I ran across this. How did you describe it? Or we talk to each other at the ASHI meetings that we go to. When we have the round tables, it's a great way for home inspectors to be able to talk to each other about what are you doing, how's marketing, how's what's happening. So if anybody's interested in you show up at an ASHI meeting, you could go online and talk to these guys. But for me, the website, Boston Home Inspectors, it's easy to find. And then the Instagram, if you call or text, we always tell people go to the Instagram for scheduling. You just text me, shoot me a text, and we handle it right there, make it the process quick and fast. The other thing with our business is we're not like a landscaper who shows up at a house and signs a contract and it's every week I'm going to that house. When you buy a house, I won't see you for 7 years.
Right.
We're constantly needing new customers. We're
Right.
constantly needing because it's not a repeat or like a car mechanic. Oh, I'm going to take my car to the mechanic every year, or So our business is a little bit different. We're constantly trying to look for new customers, and that goes back to what you said. It's sometimes a little bit difficult.
Sure. And kind of the way that we always in the podcast, right, is just kind of taking a look at this whole journey, right? I think every entrepreneur has this moment where they decide, and it's a different place, right? It may be when you get your logo back or when you get your first customer, or maybe when you become licensed in your respective industry, or whatever that may be that really flips that switch in your head that goes, okay, I'm the owner of a business now. I have to do the things that are required of me in order to make this successful. So what has this whole journey done for you, right? And why should people that are listening to this podcast, learning about their respective industry, be comfortable taking that chance on themselves to be a successful entrepreneur?
That's a good question. The switch or the switch up here, it's like, uh-oh, this is real, is all of a sudden when you start having kids. And there's,
Right.
uh-oh, I got, there's an expense there and this has to work. I gotta make sure it works. Um, since I was little, I always had an interest in the construction field or the construction business. My dad used to buy houses, fix them up and sell them. I remember as a little kid always saying, I want to go help paint. I want to help. And during, after school, the mechanical books, popular mechanics, I always loved reading it. So I wanted to do something in the construction field. The construction itself, as you get older, and the body slows down, and you get, those 2x4s that are carrying on your shoulder. You can't carry six of them anymore. You're down to four, and uh, so the education part is what I actually liked. I liked talking to people about new products. I liked explaining to people. So that's kind of I morphed into that, and um, it's just educating somebody about their property and teaching them about it and taking some of that fear out. And that's what I like about it. It makes you feel good. You leave a project, you're like, okay, they're good, they're going to go forward, they're happy with it, they understand what's going on, and it's off to hopefully the next one in the day.
Sure.
But you know being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of stuff that happens that you're constantly thinking about that you can't really talk to people about. You can't talk to your kids, you can't talk to your wife because it's just so a lot of, they don't understand when you're a self-employed business owner. So there's a lot of stuff that just sits up there and you got to work it out. Uh, so that's sometimes a little bit difficult, and
Yeah.
you've got these things coming up, and and it's like, okay, how am I going to make sure that gets done and file that through? Make sure the phone rings. COVID happened. The phone stopped ringing. You got to change the business. We were in the process of changing we were testing doing video home inspections for the clients. And I bought a GoPro. I was testing with all different equipments about a year before COVID. And COVID hit. I was set up to go in and do videos already. It just happened. So that nobody, if it was a vacant property, nobody'd show up. I get my video. I can go around with the client. The client can feel like they're there during the home inspection. They would get the highlights. So, being prepared as a business owner for an unknown change. Like when COVID hit, nobody expected it. Nobody thought about it. A lot of guys went dead, and I could keep working because I had something. I was working on something and getting it set up,
Right.
and then making the phone calls. It's like, okay, I called, I think 450 realtors, call them and says, I can do this. I can do this. If you have something, and it's 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, I'm making phone calls. So as a business owner, you get in those trenches, and you've got to work, and you can't say, oh, it's 4 o'clock, I'm going home for the day. Or Sunday, I don't want to work on a Sunday. No, you're working every day. You're always
Right.
constantly working. But it's enjoyment. And then if you want to take off a week, well, take off a week. You know,
Yeah.
so, so you can do your own schedule, but it's it's
It
all
comes with some
business owners. It's
comes with some
oh,
trials.
yeah.
Well, it's exciting to have had this conversation with someone that is so focused on being excellent in their industry and being consistent in the work that you put out. And I encourage the people that are listening to take that same approach. Find a way to make yourself excellent in your industry. Continue to do the things that are not all people are willing to do. And if you're focused and if you work very hard, you can really do some excellent things in the business world, right? All of the people that we talk to in Burn the Ship or in my regular business, which is the payments world, is a lot of these entrepreneurs are normal people that were willing to be just slightly more consistent and slightly more diligent and focused on their goals when they decided that, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. And if you have questions about how to become an entrepreneur in a certain industry, we can probably connect you with someone that can really give you a good pathway on what it looks like to enter that industry and be successful. So I appreciate the information that you've shared with me, James. It really is enlightening to know that there are people out there that are focused on continuing to push that process through when people are making, what is usually the largest investment in their life in buying a piece of property. So I look forward to connecting you with some people in my network. And if you need anything from us, please let me know if we can be an asset in your tool belt. But this has been Burn the Ship. I hope you guys check out our future episodes, check out our past episodes, share this episode with your friends if you're in an industry that is adjacent, and please connect with James at Boston Home Inspections. It would mean a lot to us. But we'll be back soon, and burn the ship.
Thank you.